extended forecast. Next week, we're looking at the mid to upper 80s.
That's unbelievable.
So it's going to be
That's
toasty
unbelievable.
each day. Yeah.
We have been kind of navigating a very difficult news cycle.
Yeah.
The last 24 hours, I mean, the political world is absolutely reeling after conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was shot during a presentation with Utah Valley University. Charlie Kirk, well known for going around to universities and engaging college students with his conservative views that oftentimes challenge, a lot of the students that show up to engage in what's normally civil debate. Obviously, that was not the case yesterday. It devolved into absolute chaos, and obviously the reaction online, everything happens so incredibly quickly. And we are joined this morning by our good friend Michael Babcock, who, oh, he's not here quite yet. In just a few moments, Michael is going to be joining us. I was actually on my way home from an appointment. This was after my morning shift yesterday, and I had heard, I'd seen the news break on a couple of social media posts, but I was really looking for some live coverage. YouTube happened to be open, and I did a quick search for Charlie Kirk live. The first outlet that came up for me was TMZ, and I just watched their audience grow and grow. There were something like 40 or 50,000 people tuning in, and Harvey, Michael, who we'll talk to in just a moment, and their whole team, they were reacting to this news in real time. And it was interesting to see their process, because Harvey, who leads their newsroom, was kind of leading the charge. He was essentially in full, like, news director mode. Who do we have calling Gavin Newsom's office? Who do we have in Utah right now? What is the online reaction that is coming in right now? So they started reading some comments. And one of the things that I kind of look forward to discussing with Michael, because he's got his finger on the pulse of different, it's not just liberals, it's not just conservatives that tune into TMZ. TMZ has a very broad audience, exactly. Yeah. And so they were reading some of these comments that came in real time, and the immediate finger pointing that a lot of these folks engaged in right after was distressing, to say the least.
I think a lot of people are dealing with that this morning on their own personal social media pages. Just people are very obviously strong feelings from all angles, as you said, both sides. And then two, the fact that it was at a college campus and all of these kids had their cell phones out. It's almost impossible to avoid seeing some of the footage from the actual shooting, which is also distressing for everybody online.
Amen to that statement. It was just X, that site. It was shocking to me. I did not voluntarily see that video yesterday.
Yeah.
And the way X was unfolding during the entire situation, you would be scrolling, you'd be looking for the latest updates, and there would just be that video. And that's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
It's like, I did not, the fact that there's, Elon Musk, when he took it over and changed it from Twitter to X, his whole thing was, you know what I mean, less
freedom.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was just one of those things. Hey, heads up, in the future now, if that's not your thing to actually witness that,
you might want to stay off for a couple of days.
Might want to.
The problem is too, like I said, there's so many students that had their phones out, so it's not like there was just one camera that was on the incident that could be, policed or not shown to the public, because there's just so many different videos and different angles that are showing it. And I think that is playing a big part this morning in the strong emotions that people are feeling.
Exactly. We understand Michael's here now. And if you guys did not see the news this morning, the headline from authorities within the FBI and Utah this morning is that they have tons of surveillance of the individual responsible. They have shots of, they described as a man going through the stairwell, up on the roof, jumping off the building into an adjacent neighborhood. And right now, they're not actually revealing that at last check. We're going to check in with Michael. Michael, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Of course.
Stinks that we're talking about this.
Yeah, I wish it weren't under these circumstances, but it's great to see you.
You too. And actually, I saw you yesterday. I felt for you and the whole team. You guys were reacting to this in real time. I was telling Caitlin, I was on the way home in the car on the way home from an appointment, and TMZ was the first live feed that came up on my YouTube, so I tuned in. There were about 40,000 people watching you guys react to this in real time.
Yeah, it was a surreal moment, and I guess that's a sign of the times, how news breaks now, and a lot of it is streaming. And we just started this new format with one of our shows, the TMZ Live Show, and part of that is that we stream each day as we take the TV show, which later airs obviously on television. And yeah, it was unfolding. That's the audience normally a bit smaller, but when somebody of Charlie Kirk's prominence and as beloved as he was by so many people across this country, when something like that, just a horrific assassination in front of so many people, in front of the world, I think there was a tremendous amount of interest in this story yesterday. And yeah, I know for me it was tough sitting there all day. I just felt so horrible about this, and particularly for his wife and their two little kids now who don't have a father.
Since you were there watching this unfold and covering it there at TMZ, can you talk to the fact that there was an outpouring of reaction from leaders on both sides of the aisle, not only from the leaders of the political spectrum, but also just folks in general?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people tend to focus on the people who are celebrating or making, stupid videos online, and you're always going to have that. But I think by and large, you had all of the living presidents yesterday come out, whether it be, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, Democrats, George Bush. You obviously had President Donald Trump, who was close friends with Charlie Kirk. They all came out. I think you saw leaders on both sides, both parties, who realized that this is not sustainable, that we cannot continue like this. And I think what makes it particularly just devastating when you're talking about Charlie Kirk is that we all have our opinions, and a lot of times we kind of are in an echo chamber, and we only listen to people we agree with, and that your opinion gets reinforced, and you never hear ideas from the quote unquote other side. But Charlie, his whole thing was that he would go to these campuses, and he gave them a voice and a tremendously large microphone to young people, and listened to them. He heard them out, and perhaps he left them with some wisdom at the end of the conversation. But I thought the debates were almost always respectful, and the idea being that he was there to have a debate, but we're going to use our words and we're going to exchange ideas, and let's try and come up with the best way to move forward. And that was what he stood for in a time when it seems hardly anybody's doing that. Again, it's such an echo chamber these days, but it wasn't for Charlie. And now that guy's gone, and he's not replaceable. I don't know who the next Charlie Kirk is, whether it be on the right or the left. I mean, he was one of a kind, and again, now that man is gone forever.
Michael, will you characterize the initial reaction on social media? I know you guys were kind of flopping between going to like news gathering mode. I heard Harvey yelling, hey, do we have a call into the governor's office? Who do we have on the ground in Utah? And also kind of monitoring the reaction that you were getting from your viewers in real time. You kind of characterize some of that initial reaction.
I think there were some people, and that's how the internet goes. There were some people who were saying things that I personally found to be disgusting. There was some of that, but I thought that by and large the reaction was most one, just pure and utter shock that this happened. And I suppose when you think about the political climate, maybe it's not surprising. And we've seen it. We saw it in Butler with Donald Trump, that especially these outdoor events, that you just can't secure every area. And it's every, what industry is not touched by not having enough manpower or not having enough security? You listen to people now talk about that. How much police presence was actually there yesterday in relation to how many people were actually on the ground at the event? And there was a tremendous amount of people that were there. And it's hard to make sure everything is secure and safe. And obviously in this case, there was at least some blind spot. Not saying anybody messed up, but there was a shooter who was able to get a shot off, and it took Charlie's life. And yeah, I think, you know, some people celebrated it. Most people didn't. I think most people realized, like, hey, this is a person that just lost their life, and they've got family and friends, and, you know, who cares who he likes politically? But yeah, I thought for the most part it was pretty encouraging to see everybody kind of band together.
Yeah, to your point about not being safe outside, I think that moving forward, I bet this is going to change things. I mean, like you mentioned Trump before getting shot at. Being outside in general just leaves you vulnerable in a vulnerable place. So maybe moving forward, when we have these controversial interactions with people, it'll be indoors where you can really have a handle on the situation. And you also mentioned people coming together. So I think the main message is that political violence has no place in America from our leaders. Do you think as a people it's going to bring us together in the end, or do you think that this really is going to be pushing us apart?
I hope it brings people together, but I think there's a world where I can see this, you know, actually, you know, causing more of a fracture, and you could see a lot of people say, okay, you know, when enough is enough, we feel that we've been targeted and we're not going to stand for it anymore, and send that message out. And I hope that's not the message, because again, I don't think that this is sustainable. I mean, one, you know, who is you talk about the next Charlie Kirk, and again, on either party here, who is going to want to step up and say, hey, I want to take this on, you know, I'll carry the mantle here. If you believe you're just going to be gunned down, I mean, who wants to do that? So I think, you know, I think it's so important that we've seen this happen before. I think you can go back decades, and there was political violence that was out of control, and it got better. And I hope that that's the direction we go in here. But I think this is going to be an inflection point one way or the other. Which direction are we going to head is the question. I hope it's a direction of peace. I really do.
Michael, as I was watching, I want to give you the chance to address your own newsroom there. Yeah. Okay. I noticed there were some heated moments, and then there was some chatter later as you guys were reacting to this about laughter in the TMZ newsroom. I know you guys posted an item on your website with some thoughts about the situation. I want to give you a chance to address that.
Yeah, and look, thank you for that. And I think that Harvey and Charles, they did a really nice job in addressing it. They made a video that we posted on the website. But if anybody hadn't seen it, essentially what had happened was, and it's incredibly unfortunate timing, and really, I think, you know, laughing in that moment probably, you know, not the thing to do. But what was happening was there was a police chase. It's in LA, culturally, it's a thing. I'm from New Jersey, never saw a police chase on TV. Here you've got like a police chase on television every other day, and they were following this police chase, not people who gather the news here, people who deal with our post-production, with our shows. And something happened in that police chase right before that they were reacting to. And it was seconds before we saw the Donald Trump you know, a Truth Social post that announced that Charlie Kirk had died. Absolutely awful timing. If anybody knows and has watched the show and knows where I stand on these things, if anybody in here had been laughing at Charlie Kirk's death, I would not be sitting here today. I promise you that.
Thank you for the clarification there. Appreciate it. As always, we appreciate your time, sir. And
thank you so much for having me, guys. It was nice to talk to you again.
Okay, hopefully we'll be speaking under better circumstances the next time we check in.
But let's do it. Thanks.
All right. Thanks so much. We're back with more Chicago Now right after this.
Say big with
Welcome back. We've got many new friends here in the studio this morning. We're talking about bugs. So this is Janelle. How do you pronounce your last name?
Iaccino.
Iaccino.
Yeah, I like it. We do that with every last name. We pronounce it with the Italian
You gotta use the
accent.
hands.
Iaccino. From Spider-Man's web-slinging powers to the real-life wonders of creepy crawlers, the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry is celebrating all things bugs this weekend with webs, wings, and wonder bugs. I love this. Okay, so this event brings together insect experts from across Chicago, including the one and only Chicago bug girl, Janelle. She's here with us this morning to talk about some fascinating bug facts, maybe even introduce us. Are we going to take them out?
Yeah,
absolutely. We are?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, okay, Janelle, before we get started, I have a little spider friend that's in my garage.
Oh.
And this time of year, you know, we talked about this the other day.
Yeah.
When it starts to get cold outside, these big wolf spiders, they try to crawl inside.
Yes.
So a lot of people, Anthony pointed out, even in Chicago, are saying, where are these spiders coming from and why are there so many?
Yeah.
So I do have this one big spider and everybody's been asking for a picture. This is her. I mentioned it earlier. I don't know. Her and I have coffee together every day when I walk out to the car.
Does she have a name, Caitlin?
She should. Maybe Janelle can come up with one, but I think she's big enough that I could shave her legs.
Wow.
Yeah, big girl. I had to take a picture for my kids too because we try to find her during the day and she just definitely does not want to be found.
No.
So it's in the middle of the night, you know, darkness when I can go out there and say hi.
I love that.
But so you're a bug girl. What drew you to bugs?
You know, it's interesting that you showed your spider because that's how it all started for me. I was gifted a tarantula. What a weird gift, right?
Yeah.
I was in high school at the time, and someone gifted me a tarantula, and I was like, oh my God, my mom's not going to let me keep this in the house. So I kept it in my locker at school.
You did?
What did you feed it?
I would bring crickets in from like the pet store, you know, and like, so I developed this reputation, but years fast forward,
What was
like
that tarantula's name?
it was Xanadu.
Xanadu. With an
Olivia
X?
Newton-John.
Xanadu. Maybe my spider will be named Xanadu Jr.
But years later, you know, I took a job working for Rose, answering phones. I thought it was going to be like a part-time summer thing, and here I am 20 years later. I'm their marketing director, and I'm sharing my love of bugs with Chicagoland, so it's full circle for me.
You're speaking to all the parents out there because I can say we've got ants around our house.
I don't know if the camera can
See the
zoom in,
flare?
but she's adorned.
And she has a
These
dress
are,
too.
Cicadas.
That's a cicada?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got
That's
a
beautiful.
bee here, a little,
then
little
the
bee
brooch
here,
here's a little
and there's
bee.
bees all over my dress too.
It's that time of year,
I
right?
know.
I need a
Yes.
tie.
Like
A
I
bee
would
tie?
love a tie with, you know,
With the
Maggie
honeycomb
loves
look?
dragonflies.
Ooh. Oh,
that's
cool.
been a motif in
Yeah.
our household for many, many years.
Nice.
Dragonflies. We love dragonflies in our house. Point of clarification, though, Mike Kaplan, our one of Caitlin's colleagues,
He's an expert in
weather
all
department,
things.
He gave us a mild scolding before the show. A mild scolding because we were talking about Caitlin's new Xanadu Jr. friend. And he was like, that is not
A bug.
an insect.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Spiders are arachnids.
That's right.
Can you run us through the differentiation?
I mean,
there?
there's a lot of different types of creepy crawly things, right? But they're not all insects. Insects have 6 legs. Spiders have 8. That's a totally different category of creature. And there's other things too, like if you've ever seen a roly-poly, that's an isopod. There's
Well, like a millipede or whatever,
well,
centipede.
that's different. Those are different too.
Okay. Okay.
So there's all these different classifications of insects, but these are true insects that I brought today. I've got best beetles, which are also known as patent leather beetles, because they make a little squeak noise. And if you've ever had patent leather shoes and you rub them together, that's the noise
That's what
they
it
make.
sounds like, and they look
When
like
they're
leather.
scared.
They
too.
do. They're really shiny. They're cute. You want me to take one out?
Yes,
right now?
of course.
Okay.
If you would care to, this
they
will be
bite?
a first. for
No,
me.
they don't.
bite?
So these these are decomposers, and they're necessary for our world because if we didn't have decomposers to
Oh, he's
break
cute.
down things,
Oh, he's cute.
the world would smell really
He
bad.
doesn't bite you?
No, not
do
they.
it. Oh, no.
They're kind
Over
of
the table,
clumsy.
Anthony.
Yeah, they're kind of
Okay.
clumsy.
Yeah.
So
Oh, he's cute.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, big pinchers in the front.
Little
Yeah, but
tickly.
they only eat, they chew through wood and stuff, and they have no interest in eating us. That's just not a thing.
Does he fly?
No.
Is this? Could you find one of these creatures
my
outside
gosh.
here?
Absolutely. If you're in your own backyard and you turn over a log, you could find one of these.
He's going like this with
Right?
his little. But he's all bark, no bite.
Yeah.
All
He's a
bark,
big
no
boy.
bite.
He's cute, and look at those little antennae. They're kind of clubbed at the end. I mean, how do you not love this little guy?
He is sweet. So what do they eat? You said
Just
they eat
wood, decaying matter,
Caitlin, do you
decaying
wanna,
plant
do you wanna
matter.
do that?
Yeah, I don't want to
Let me
hold a
help you.
cockroach. I don't think those ones are fast.
That's a Bez
Not
beetle?
these. Bess.
Bess
B-E-S-S,
beetle. A Bess
yes.
beetle.
Oh, he's like a hamster. You guys, oh, look at him go. Oh,
Just
look at
adorable.
him. He's got a little wiggle in his walk.
They're kind of cute and dopey,
They're
right?
very cute and dopey. Oh, I love him. Okay, do these come from worms, by the way?
So they start out as a type of larva that might resemble like a mealworm. It's not quite a mealworm. Those turn into darkling beetles, but
Oh, he's so cute.
In his home.
Not really. I want to take him home with me.
Just take him home.
I have plenty if you want to do that.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Again,
no,
these-
no,
This
I
would be
put
a
him
good
on his
option
back.
for like families
He's
to like,
okay,
you know
he's
how your
okay.
kids want to keep bugs.
Oh,
all the time?
absolutely.
So you could
You
just
know-
stick him with some wood in like a container.
Absolutely.
What about water?
Easy breezy.
How do you do water?
I missed the habitat.
Oh,
yeah,
that's the
all they
easiest
need.
bug I've
I
ever
know.
heard of.
Yeah, it's and they're hypoallergenic. so-
Man. All right, now
Great
this
option.
other guy is a little bit more
Yeah, so-
controversial here.
These are Madagascar hissing cockroaches.
Ooh.
I'm not going to take the biggest one out because he's
Ooh.
the alpha and he's a little squirrely. But
Oh.
this one, I'm like dropping my bugs in your
Gosh.
studio, hilarious. But this one's pretty chill. These come with me all over. We go to schools and
gosh.
museums, and they're
He's got
used
a
to me handling
hard
them.
exoskeleton.
So that's one of the first things kids will notice because they're like, "Ew, bug's slimy." No, I'm like,
Okay,
no,
wait.
it just feels like a turtle shell.
And this one we can't find in our backyard.
No, this is not
Where are they
native.
from? Madagascar?
Madagascar. So that's
Everything's
one of the
bigger
things
in
that I
Madagascar.
teach kids is, you know, the difference
Oh,
between native
hello.
and non-native insects.
Oh, he's missing one of his antennae.
Because the alpha has been beating him up.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Do you see how big that one is in the corner here?
Oh no.
So
I
the
might take
all-
a pass on holding that one.
He took off the antenna, hey?
Yeah, so they don't really have much of an aggression or defense or anything like that. They literally just swing their rear ends at each other and knock each other off of things.
Not the
and-
rear ends.
Yeah.
Should we separate them? Are they like? Are you trying to make little baby cockroaches?
I mean, these are all three males, so that's not going to happen,
Got
and
it.
that's why they're kind of fighting for like the alpha position. But yeah, they're really cool to show kids because they're big. You can see their spiracles, which are the holes you see here. That's how they breathe.
No way.
And we talk about exoskeletons and life cycles. I mean, it's just you can teach kids so many things with this bug.
What would you say here in the Midwest? You know, we don't have the kind of exotic bugs of like Madagascar or Australia.
goodness.
But thank goodness, they can be kind of frightening. But what is it? What would you share for those of us here in Chicagoland? If what is kind of a bug lover's delight here locally? Like when you see
Great
that, you're
question.
like, yes. Oh,
Well, we are a monarch butterfly way station. So this is the time of year that monarchs migrate. And across the Midwest, it's like a whole pattern that goes from Mexico all the way up to Canada. And Chicago, actually the Peggy-Notibart is an official way station. They have tons of milkweed, so they're feeding those monarchs halfway at their halfway point.
Wow.
So that's a magical thing, right? People love butterflies. So
And butterflies too, by the way, you guys. It might be too late this season, which you could tell us if it is, but you can buy these little things, speaking of kiddos, in the mail where they send you
Yes.
like a cage
Yes.
and the little worms
Yes.
with the food, and then you can kind of hatch
It's
your
like
own
a mesh
butterfly.
habitat,
Yeah.
yes.
And then you release them.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah?
You can absolutely get those. I wouldn't recommend doing it now. I would
Okay.
say the spring is a good time for
Yeah.
that.
Oh, the spring is a
because
good time.
you want to have them develop a little bit, and then
Got
when you
it.
release them, it should be like nice outside.
So they
We're
have a
coming into
chance.
cooler weather now, so
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
What is, I got some like, very, very hard-hitting journalistic questions here. What would you say is the most dangerous, if any, the most dangerous native Chicagoland insect that we need to be aware
Brown
of?
recluse.
No, it's
Widow.
I will say the most dangerous insect on the planet
Oh.
is the mosquito. And we're still in peak mosquito season, which a lot of people think, okay, it's getting cooler, it's not a threat anymore, you know, but this time of year, this month particularly, is one of the hugest spikes. We always see West Nile pop up in our counties.
We reported the numbers today. And they were
but because the diseases that they spread are so horrible, that's why they're the most dangerous insect on the planet.
I've got a question about mosquitoes, because I got bit just the other day, you guys. When they bite you, you know how sometimes it hurts and sometimes you can't feel it?
Yeah.
If it hurts, does that mean that they're like infected with something? Because that always crosses my mind.
I don't know
or
that answer.
You at a bad angle.
I feel like everyone reacts differently, and like oftentimes I will feel it as it happens because I'm just hypersensitive to that. But there are times where like they have like an anesthetic that they'll inject into your skin as they draw the blood, and so that's why you wouldn't feel it. But I'm just hypersensitive, so I always feel stuff. Yes.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I got bit, and then other times they get me, and I'm like, get out of here.
I still have. I don't know if you can see over here on the jugular. I got bit.
I see a little darker area.
Yes, exactly. I got bit by something. I think it was a mosquito, but this was the worst mosquito bite I ever had. It took so long to heal, and then to this day, I think it was just because that was like, that's like my superhighway vein.
Oh gosh, they got you in the jugular.
Yeah, right in the jugular. Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
But that makes sense. I mean, the mosquito is probably the most destructive, like, non-human force in history.
The most dangerous. The most destructive is the termite.
Oh, yeah.
Which is very real in Chicago. Yes. People don't think that because it's like concrete jungle here, but termites are very real in Chicago.
Awful.
What factoids can you give us about the house centipede? Okay, when it gets...
Do they bite? No.
When it gets... sting their prey.
They sting.
Yeah.
You guys know what the house centipede is, right?
That's... Admittedly, that's like one of the creepiest bugs to me because I have a personal like trauma. I used to live in an old bungalow that had asphalt siding, and I mean there were so many gaps in this house, it was ridiculous, but our basement always flooded and leaked and stuff, and
they like moisture.
For whatever reason, they loved hanging out above my bed of all places, and like so it kept me up all the time, and that's my trauma. But
I have one too, very similar. But mine was like a millipede. Yeah, they're fast with those legs. Yeah. So one time I was sleeping. This was when I lived in North Carolina. I was sleeping and like I felt like something was biting me, and I was like, maybe I woke up again later in the night, felt like something was biting me. So I went to the bathroom and I saw these red marks like on my cheek and then on my arm. Go back to my bed, lift up my pillow, and there was like it wasn't the one with the long legs. It had short legs, but it was still and it was biting me.
I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I'm not familiar with the bugs they have in North Carolina.
I don't want to mention bed bugs, but
I don't think so. Well, this guy was this big, you guys. He was under my pillow, and I had bite marks.
It could have just irritated your skin as he crawled on you or something. Not that that's comforting, but
maybe it was a cockroach.
I want to steer the conversation back to house centipedes, though, for a moment. If you'll indulge me. So you said they sting. Why are they so prevalent in? Like you mentioned, you have one in your basement. Yeah. I am not the only one here in Chicagoland that has complained about the house centipede.
No, you know what? And when radiators start to come on soon, in a couple weeks here, we're going to hit colder weather, right? So as those radiators come on, they're seeking moisture, and they're going to start to make appearances. But there's a lot of insects for them to eat right now, which is why you might see lots of populations of them. Because there's it's harvest season, and there's lots of bugs out still. So
is there a potential advantage to having them because they eat other bugs in your house, or does it all depend on you psychologically?
It's all about the balance, in my opinion. Like for me, like I would not be okay with having centipedes in my house, and I have cats that take care of that. They pull their weight.
Nice.
You know?
No way.
But I will. If I find a spider in the house, I will let it outside. Yeah, see, they're kind of dopey and.
Yeah, hold on, I gotta flip.
Something I've seen in Northwest Indiana, which anybody who lives in Northwest Indiana, if you guys are watching, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The amount of grasshoppers that are out there right now. I've got like 6 on my window at all times. Like giant grasshoppers.
Oh my gosh.
So speaking of like bugs eating other bugs, I feel like the birds are getting a real snack right now.
Oh, tell me about it.
They're gigantic.
Well, and as crops start to get harvested, that's going to displace a lot of creatures.
And I do live out in the farm fields.
And so if you've ever seen a stink bug on your house, or a box elder bug, or one of those Asian lady beetles, which are the orange looking ladybugs. Those are all coming out.
Not to be confused with the ladybug.
Right. They're totally different because they'll bite and they'll leave a stain on your wall if you smash them and stuff. But those all live in like crop fields, and so when the farmers harvest, they have nowhere to go. So they're going to flock towards the nearest buildings. And
my baby is 1, and he absolutely ate a ladybug the other day.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
There's protein in there, isn't
Like
there?
chewed up, yeah. So hopefully they're not poisonous, and hopefully it
well, they
wasn't the one
do
that
have a
bite.
very minimal amount of toxin, but I mean, it's not. It
Sounds
should just
about right.
pass, you know.
Yeah.
What, when it comes to bug infestations in folks' house, you mentioned termites.
Yeah.
Is that the #1 infestation in Chicago, or are there other?
I mean, rats are always, you know, the #1 issue all year round. It used to be where, you know, the winter we'd start seeing more rats and mice and things like that, but it's all year round now, and I think COVID really changed those populations in the city for us. I mean, we've been the rattiest city for 10 years now.
Yeah.
So that's probably the #1 infestation we always see.
Got it. We did a lot of reporting about bed bug infestations in Manhattan. I want to say there was maybe 1 or 2 cases here locally. What's the landscape there locally with bed bugs?
In Manhattan?
No.
Oh, here. I mean, we're the bed buggiest city as well right now in America, and it's just because we're a travel like hub, and the more you have people moving around, the more the chances are of those spreading. So I always teach, you know, due diligence. Do your homework. Know how to check into a hotel or an Airbnb. Don't put your bag down if you're riding the CTA. You know, things like that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting tidbit. Let's talk about your event this weekend.
Yeah.
What do you guys have?
Sorry, we got way off track.
Off track, right where we should be.
Saturday at the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry, we have Webs, Wings, and Wonder Bugs going on from 10 to 2.
Okay.
And a bunch of my friends are going to be there from the Peggy Noda Bart Nature Museum, the Butterfly Company, the Insect Asylum. We've got a whole bunch of insect enthusiasts coming together to teach kids to get in touch with nature and the world around them, because let's be honest, there's totally enough screens in our lives, right?
Yes,
but
absolutely.
it's time to unplug and get these kids back in touch with what's around us, because nature needs the next generation as advocates, and we need careers, you know, in entomology and in pest control to maintain that balance and stuff too. So it's super important, but it's also so much fun that we're all doing this and coming together. It was kind of inspired by the current exhibit, the Spider-Man exhibit that's up right now.
Oh yeah.
Because Spider-Man has a lot of awesome, you know, abilities.
Sure.
But so do real life spiders.
Yeah.
I love it.
So what a perfect tie and an opportunity
I
to
love
teach
it.
kids, like, you know.
That bugs are our friends.
Yes.
I am always astounded as we take a look at
Xanadu.
Xanadu Jr.
that they can build such architectural marvels in a matter of what, hours?
Oh my gosh,
I mean, like, I'll wake up in the morning, you know, we get up super early for this shift, and there will be a new stunning web. I mean, sometimes I have to duck to get under it, or grab a broom and get it out of my way.
And now that we've got some morning dew happening too, that really kind of highlights those works of art, right? They're
Exactly.
beautiful.
They became like Halloween decorations.
Oh,
year.
I love it.
Completely. So this is happening at the Museum of Science and Industry this weekend.
Yep, 10 to 2.
10
and
to 2.
The event is included in general admission, so bring the whole family out.
Will they be able to hold the?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Fun.
Live interaction.
And if you haven't, I mean, this is for longtime fans of the Museum of Science and Industry. I believe it's in the basement, but on the wall, there is an unbelievable gallery of, like, I don't know how they preserved them, but it's like you can see
the pins and the bugs
from all around the world. They're just
specimens.
The specimens. They're kind of like near the main set of bathrooms, like kind of underneath the. And it is. I could spend so much time just looking at all of
They're
those.
gorgeous. It's amazing. Yeah, I mean, just to realize what's around us and in our own backyards is like the coolest thing ever.
Is there any bugs that you're like, don't let the kids go by? Please tell me.
I mean, like wasps, obviously, because those are different from honeybees. I mean, I do programs where I'm teaching kids, you know, the importance of pollinators and honeybees, but the wasps and yellow jackets, which are common this time of year. If you go to apple orchards or doing fall harvest stuff, they're out and about and they're looking for sugary drinks, and they will send people to the hospital if they sting, because they can sting over and over and over.
Oh
so,
my!
They don't lose their stinger like the bee.
Exactly.
I got one in my house yesterday.
So my biggest piece of advice with that is do not swat them, because that's going to aggravate them and make them attack you. to.
What do you do
So-
if it's in your car? What if it's in your car?
Get out of the car.
Okay, wait. This is what happened. This is so serious, you guys. I was with my kids, all 3 kids, locked in their car seats the other day.
Oh my gosh.
And a wasp got in the car. So I'm like trying to get it out the door. I get it out one side, shut the door. He comes in the other way, back in the van.
Did you have sugary drinks out? Is that what
We did get a smoothie.
See?
Okay, maybe
But
that's
what
it.
you gotta sometimes.
I know. It's
don't whack 'em, huh?
because that disorients them and it will throw off their flight pattern, and then they just want to attack because they feel disturbed.
Okay, so what
So
would
no
be...
swatting, just freeze and let it do whatever it's going to do around you, and it'll go away.
It'll go away?
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as you don't have
An
a
open
beer or a can of pop near you.
Yeah.
Keep those covered. Keep them covered because that's what they'll seek out.
That's-
Same thing with raw meat. If you're grilling, they will equally want to go after raw meat too.
I heard
so.
open some tuna if you're having a party and put it in the yard really far away, and that will keep the bees away, the wasps away from
Really?
your guests.
And it might attract neighborhood cats.
And
I'm
there you
kidding.
go. And then that's a self-contained situation.
Yeah, and then they'll help get rid of the rats.
There you go.
It's like Farmer of the Dell,
That's
right?
really good. That's really good to know, though. So, because we've all been in that situation where a wasp or a yellow jacket will just not leave you alone. You'll be at a tailgate, and it just...
You feel compelled to be like, God,
Yeah,
get away
exactly.
from me.
So just be patient,
Hands
cover
off.
your drink,
Yep.
and it'll eventually
Freeze
go
up.
away.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ew.
I know.
Good.
Very valuable information.
Yes.
So 10 to 2 this weekend at the Griffin Museum of Science and Industry. Janelle Iaccino.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Chicago's
Thanks for
a bug
having
girl.
me. I hope to
everybody.
see everyone Sunday or Saturday.
Exactly. Thank you for
And
bringing
get you
your
one of
friends
these little
here.
guys as a pet.
We'll be back with more Chicago Now after
Here it
this.
is.
Oh, yeah.
No. By the way, when we went to commercial, and I wish we would have, maybe we could do it another time, but she got the cockroaches to hiss.
Hiss.
So you
The
touch
hissing
their back
cockroach.
and they push air out of their little holes there. So fun. Okay, we're switching topics, talking about music and Wiggleworms. So, since 1985, Old Town School of Folk Music's Wiggleworms has been a rite of passage in Chicago, a music class for kids and caregivers that sets the foundation for a lifelong love of music. So joining us now is Max Berg, who is a Wiggleworms teacher at the Old Town School of Folk Music. So thanks for coming in
Thanks
today.
for having me. Super excited to be here.
So Wiggleworms, can you tell us first what Wiggleworms is for those of us who haven't?
Yeah, it's a early childhood education program that we do at the school. It involves entertainment and performance, but mainly, right, it's a ability or a way for us to develop you know, cognitive and social skills and things like that for kids, and really show them the appreciation and love that we have at the school for music. And that's been going on, like you said, since 1985.
Since 1985, my oldest is an alumnus, proud alumnus of Wiggleworms at the Lincoln Square Old Town School of Folk, so that campus there. There you are. These kids are, what, 1.5, 2,
yes.
3 years old? Like,
yes, so it really varies. We have like infants, so we do a class called lullabies for like, you know, brand new babies, right? And we it goes up to 4, so toddlers as well. So there's a bunch of different classes, you know, some specialized classes within the whole program. But yeah, normally like infants up to toddlers. Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so talking about like the music, do you have to be creative and create your own, or are you singing like nursery rhymes, or what can people expect?
Well, for our faculty, it's a mix of both, definitely. There are lots of traditional songs. We are a folk music school, and so like there are lots of old traditional songs that have been passed down from generation to generation that we don't want to lose, and that are important for us to play. But then also we have so many talented teachers who write their own music, who have gone on to have careers outside of the school as well, and sell like albums and things like that. Ralph Covert is a good example of that. He was a Wiggleworms teacher and then went on to publish a bunch of records for kids and things like that. Yeah.
Can you speak, Max, anything about cognitively in terms of the child's development and appreciation for music? You know, we hear when I remember distinctly when Maggie was pregnant, I would lean into her belly and, you know, go with a real deep voice and try to sing Theo some songs while in the womb. We'd play Mozart, things like that, you know, outside, because they're in a fluid sac, right? And so I'm guessing that they can hear basically most of what is happening in and around the mom. How important is it for the programs like this to kind of instill those formative kinds of experiences when it comes to
I think it's so important. So, but like, you know, I teach a lot of adults too. I teach classes for adults in private lessons, and people come to me and they say, oh, like, you know, I haven't been, you know, I wish that I became a musician earlier. And I'm like, well, you've always been a musician, because since the minute we're born, right, we're processing information and music, and the way that you're about to approach playing an instrument now, it's your whole life leading you up to this moment. So with little kids, it's so important, right, to instill these abilities to perceive rhythm and melody and things like that. And you know, you can see that as a kid takes that into their life. I can share too, I was a Wiggleworm when I was a kid.
No way!
Yeah, so I started in the Wiggleworm program when I was probably 1 year old and did it for a couple years, and then my family moved out of Chicago. But it's very full circle, because that, in a lot of ways, you know, that led me down a career in music professionally.
Let's hear about your background. You know, outside of Wiggleworms, what's your musical background, and what do you do outside your teaching?
Sure. I started playing guitar when I was 9, so my parents never really forced me to play an instrument super early on, but like from the minute I was born, basically, I was responding to music and dancing and singing. I've always been singing too. And I think, again, that's where those classes were really, really important for that when I was, you know, 1, 2 years old. But I started playing guitar at age 9. I took lessons out, and I was living in Oak Park at the time, so I took lessons out in Berwyn. And I actually had my first gig ever at Fitzgerald's, which is a popular venue around here that people may know, out in Berwyn. And I really just never looked back with the guitar. That was like sort of just my thing, and singing as well. And so when I moved back to Chicago in 2020, I knew that I wanted to make a career out of not just playing music, but music education as well for kids and adults. So I moved back here. I started playing in bands. I picked up an instrument called the pedal steel. You can catch me around town and with a number of bands playing that instrument as well as guitar.
What is that? Yeah.
Pedal steel guitar is it's sort of like, you know, I've heard it described so many ways. I've heard people call it a table guitar. One person came up to me after a show and called it an electric xylophone. But it's a slide guitar in a lot of ways. So you play it with a steel bar, you operate it with pedals and with knee levers, and a lot of people don't really realize, but you hear it in a ton of songs. And so my reference for like where you can hear it is lots of country music.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay, so you're doing a lot of music outside of even just the classroom.
Yeah.
Do you have any aspirations to maybe be on stage one day?
Sure. I mean, you know, we play all the time in all these bands that I play in, and, you know, we'll see what happens with that.
Fitzgerald's is a really cool event. Do you still play there? This is a, I mean, it's a historic venue, right?
I only played there when I was 9. And I haven't played there since, but I'd like to at some point.
It's a cool place.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kids and music, I have to say, like YouTube is such a go-to for us, and I've done that before too, like dance music for kids. Do you guys offer any programs that people could stream from home, maybe?
Yeah, I think there are. So all of my classes are in person, but I believe that there are some online classes. That was something that sort of came out of the pandemic. And so, you know, we didn't really phase that out completely. Because it's valuable, you know, it makes things more accessible for people all over the place. I know, like, in general, with our programs, all the programs at the Old Town School, when everything went online, you know, years ago, there were actually people who were taking classes, like, in different countries, too. So it makes things more accessible, definitely.
Max Berg with the Old Town School of Folk. You brought your guitar.
I did.
No pressure, but
the choice is yours. But would you be so kind as to play us to break with a song, sir?
Absolutely.
Fan favorite or your favorite?
Yeah, so I'll play one of the ones that I like to do a lot. And I also just, you know, I feel like it's one of the other reasons why it's so important, right, for us
Pardon my reach. I'm just going to make sure this
is that on?
Yeah.
Awesome. Why it's so important to play music for our kids and the next generation and create, right, is because music is something that's meant to be created, not to be consumed. And that's really, really important, especially as we get into, you know, artificial intelligence making music and things like that, right? So to be able to show people that, like, these are real human beings, right, making music, and show our kids that and instill, like, sort of that appreciation and that, you know, creativity is really, really important to me. So I will leave you with a song here. This is one that the kids in my classes really, really seem to love. You might know it. It's Baby Beluga by Rafi.
Okay,
Yay.
Max Berg.
Baby beluga in the deep blue sea, you swim so wild and you swim so free. Heaven above and the sea below, and a little white whale on the go. Oh, baby beluga, oh, baby beluga, sing your little song. For all your friends, we'd like to hear Oh, baby beluga, oh, baby beluga, with tomorrow's sun, another day's begun. You'll soon be waking, baby beluga in the deep blue sea. You swim so wild and you swim so free. Heaven above and the sea below, and a little white whale on the go. You're just a little white whale on the go. You're just a little white whale on the go.
Yes.
That was great.
Max Berg, everybody. We're
Thanks
back
for
with more
having me.
Chicago Now right after this.
I'm
I'm going to be
Not the
singing the Baby
professional
Beluga
singer.
song
Right, well, along with him.
for the rest of the day.
I was saying on the commercial break that I wish, and we'll show it next week, but my baby, when he does dance, like if he was here for that, he just bounces his little diaper butt up and down, like just bends the knees. He doesn't know what he's doing, but every time he hears music, it's just, he feels the groove, you know?
You know, I'm glad I'm through the infant toddler stage, but there is nothing cuter than the little one's little diaper
The
butt
diaper.
waddling
just
away.
bouncing when he's dancing.
Yeah,
He just pops it every time.
adorable.
Love it.
Send him to Wiggleworms.
I should, but it's a little far.
Yeah,
you
it's a
know?
little far, but it's
a little
such a
far.
great program. Our thanks
Darling.
again to Max
Yeah.
for coming in and sharing his talent with us. All right, we're going to get some trending topics before we sign off today. Number one, speaking of little ones, mom gives birth in a McDonald's parking lot.
Yeah.
And people are loving it, the baby's nickname. Alice and Kevin Rotunda of Michigan. There they are right now. Happy group right there. Welcome their fourth child, Matilda, Tilly, in the early hours of August 11th, but not in a hospital. Contractions came fast during their 45-minute drive to the Kalamazoo hospital. The couple had to stop at a closed McDonald's. It wasn't even open in Schoolcraft, where Kevin delivered his wife's baby in the parking lot.
Oh, jeez.
Matilda was born healthy. Paramedics arrived shortly after to properly drive the family to the hospital, but the baby's unusual birthplace inspired her brother-in-law. Brother-in-law is the one who came up with this, McTilly, and that stuck.
Like it.
Even the local McDonald's joined in, posting on Facebook that she was now part of the Mc family.
Yeah.
So there's little McTilly right there, and Alice says she is grateful for a safe delivery and happy to have a wild but heartwarming story that her daughter will carry forever.
You go, Mama.
McTilly.
McTilly, I've always had C-sections, you know? So, like, my worry was that the power would go out. One time, when I had my first, there was a tornado warning, and I was watching the radar before we got rolled back to get the C-section, and I was like, there's rotation, and it's headed towards the hospital. Will you please put me in the hallway? And the doctors were like, no, the tornado warning's done. I was like, not that storm, this storm that's coming, because in my mind, and they wouldn't listen to me. I was like, I'm a meteorologist, I know what I'm talking about. And the anesthesiologist was like, it's fine. And in my mind the whole time, we left Grady because they have to get like the gown on when you do this, the husbands do. And I was like, watch that rotation and tell me if it's over the hospital as they're pushing me back into the operating room, because my mind just went to the power's gonna go out when they're in the middle of surgery and I'm gonna be having a C-section in the dark.
Is
Can't
this
even
a common
imagine.
worry among expectant mothers?
Yes, what could go wrong?
Is it?
Yes. Yes.
About the or is this
Because listen,
specific to
Steve,
you
and
folks in
Steve.
the meteorological community?
No. If you had a baby in your belly, the way that baby's getting out one
Would
way
be
or
top of
another,
mind.
when you get close, I mean, think about all the things that could go wrong. And this baby's got to get out of your body, and you got to be okay.
You got plenty of generators at those hospital facilities. You don't need
Yeah,
to
but what
worry.
if there was like a lapse for a second, and like the injection that goes into my back like wasn't pumping the medication and all the things?
It all worked out.
It worked
Caitlin.
out. We didn't lose
Okay.
power.
Next
was a
up,
tangent, sorry.
I understand that a passenger on board a flight got a little too comfy for his
Okay.
own good.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to read it? Okay, let's see. So this is a Reddit thread about a man lounging barefoot on a Delta flight. Sparked outrage online, with users calling it crimes against humanity and comparing it to clipping nails in public.
Oh.
I do clip my nails in public sometimes.
Caitlin.
Listen, you gotta do it when you've got time. Many shared their own horror stories of bad in-flight etiquette, joking about living room syndrome and emphasizing the need for disinfectant wipes. The original poster said they confronted the passenger, who eventually put his socks back on. But etiquette expert and former flight attendant Jacqueline Whitmore weighed in, saying it's both rude and unhygienic to go barefoot on planes due to germs, especially in lavatories, where the water on the floor is most likely not water at all. She added that seeing someone barefoot can ruin the flying experience for nearby passengers. Her advice: for comfort, wear socks, slippers, or comfortable shoes instead of going completely barefoot.
You know,
Thoughts?
all right, I would like in general, I'm not one of those, hey, everyone needs to be in a suit and tie like they used to be back when flying was very, you know, it was thought of as
Prestigious. It was an event.
prestigious, yes.
Yeah.
Like everyone got dressed to the nines, so I hear.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not one of those that we need to go back to those days. However, would I like to see things like get kicked up a notch from your shower sandals and your pajama pants?
Yeah.
Yes. I would like to see, yeah, this is just personal opinion here.
For sure.
How about you? How do you?
The opposite. I don't care what you're wearing. If you want to go barefoot, boo.
Are you
Serious.
serious? Caitlin, Cody.
Just don't touch me with your feet.
But what did you think about what she said? The etiquette expert, bare feet in the lavatory. That's not water down
Again, though, if you're wearing bare feet, I'm going to wear my shoes. That's up to you.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're okay with people...
Anthony, listen, yesterday I was driving to cheer practice. My 3-year-old in the back seat had one shoe. I was like, you're going in your socks. We went in the field, just socks. So I'm kind of at that stage in life right now where if you're clothed and you have all of the important pieces covered, I don't really care.
Okay.
You know?
I mean, this doesn't really track with your you must take your shoes off to enter my house.
True, but that's totally different.
It's different. Apples and oranges.
Because I'm not, again, if your feet get nasty in the bathroom on the airplane, my feet don't get nasty.
Okay, so,
you know what I mean?
Not in your house. I get it. Okay. Well, hey, let us know what you guys think. I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't think it needs to be formal. I would like, you know, it's a little.
Would you wear sweats? You're not going to wear sweats on the plane? Anthony, it's a 4 a.m. flight. You're not wearing sweats?
You know what? Sweats fine. I think it's the footwear. I think it's the shower sandals that get under my skin a little bit.
Really?
And I don't have a very good reason for that. Maybe I.
Oh no.
My nose in it. But yeah, I don't.
I kind of wear shower sandals like all the time.
People's feet, just like, you know, on a long flight, I just would rather.
What if they're nicely manicured toes? Like really nice feet.
Probably
clean feet.
Takes the edge off.
Yeah.
It takes the edge off.
Yeah, we needed that discussion.
All right, next up, Spotify, and I've never heard of anything like this.
Do we have time?
Launched
Don't we have to wrap this up?
Oh my gosh, it's 10:59. You get me going, I'll just keep going. We need to go to break because we got another hour of Chicago Now. Tia is here waiting in the wings, and I'm hogging her time. Thank you so much.
So next,
we'll see you tomorrow on Friday. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Shower sandals and bare feet.
Nothing.
Welcome back to Chicago Now. It is 11:01 on your pre-Friday. That's what I call it because it is Thursday. I don't know about you, but I'm excited to move into the weekend. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, including eerie encounters. Maybe you thought you heard something creaking in your basement. Was it real? Was it not? We're going to have a professor who really studies the paranormal join us to separate fact from folklore. And then we're going to talk to Barstool's Frank the Tank. He's teaming up with Lionsgate. He's shed over 220 pounds, and he has a new film that has been tracking his journey called The Long Walk. We're going to talk to him about that. But first, we got to talk about something that I think has really made our nation kind of pause for a moment, and that is the death of Charlie Kirk. who was shot and killed yesterday. It happened in Utah. And joining us now to really kind of delve deep into this topic is Tom Makaitis. He's a professor at DePaul University studying history there. Thank you so much for being with us. Let's talk about this, Tom. You know, this was one of those instances that I think, you know, really shocks the nation, stuns the nation, makes us rethink everything that we've seen in political news. Bring us up to speed about everything that has transpired, I would guess, within the last 15 or so hours.
They're closing in on the perpetrator. It seems quite clear. They found the weapon. They have other evidence. They even have some kind of a description. So I suspect we will learn a great deal more, probably by the end of the day, certainly by tomorrow. But I think the thing to point out, this is only the latest in a series of these attacks, which indicate how deeply divided and polarized we are, and how violence is becoming an increasingly normal response among some people, and sadly cheered by others as a way of dealing with disagreement. And that does not bode well, you know, for peace and harmony in what was a stable democracy, and I hope will continue to be.
Let's talk about this, Professor, because you are talking about that political violence that we've seen unfold in the U.S. We saw the assassination attempt on President Trump. Now we actually have this instance of where Charlie Kirk was killed. What do you think that does historically when we look at the political landscape of the United States as we try to move forward from all of this?
Well, we should also add the assassination of the Speaker of the Minnesota House and her husband, and the wounding of two other people. I think it means that, you know, we have gotten to the point where sadly our political leaders are demonizing anyone who disagrees with them. And that unfortunately creates a climate of hostility. There were always going to be unstable people in this country, and sadly there's, you know, far too easy access to firearms. There will always be a minority who will take that as a call to arms. But anytime someone is criticized, they tend to get death threats. Anytime a judge, you know, rules against the president and he demonizes them, that judge gets death threats. You know, we had recently the murder of the son of a judge. So, you know, I think this is sadly an escalating trend, which is very, very worrying. And I'm very concerned that there might be retaliatory killings, or at least attempts, as a response to this particular incident, this assassination of this very popular, you know, far-right influencer and activist.
You know, Tom, I haven't been on the planet for a very long time, but looking at the history of our country, have we ever gotten to a point where it's been I would say this bad, because this is pretty bad. Have we ever gotten to a point in our country where we've seen these type of attacks? You mentioned the Minnesota lawmakers there, Nancy Pelosi's husband. We can't forget that either. Have we ever seen anything like this happen looking at the history of our country?
Yeah, actually we have. In the beginning of the 20th century, we had the anarchist movement. Remember, we had President McKinley assassinated by an anarchist. And there was the Wall Street bombing, and there were other incidents as well. The Haymarket incident, you know, from say the 1890s through about 1920 was a very uncertain period of time. So we have gone through periods. Of course, we did have the American Civil War and so on. So there have been periods of violence. But what we have now that is a game changer is social media and the internet that make it possible to spread extremist ideology very, very rapidly. I'm less concerned that there are a handful of individuals willing to engage in this sort of activity at the response, you know, on both sides to the instance when they occur, cheering it on or saying the person got what they deserve, or saying, well, the individual, you know, was himself, you know, an agitator. This is really not helpful. No matter what you thought of Charlie Kirk, the time now is to say we categorically condemn all forms of political violence, full stop. And don't do the yes but, which unfortunately is becoming too common. And, you know, we've seen the same thing on the right, where there was not the same degree of outrage over the murder of the children in, you know, again in Minnesota, and also the murder of the Speaker of the House. So, you know, I don't know everyone knows what the issue is, what the problem is. How we're going to move out of it is really problematic. It's going to take some kind of bipartisan effort, and I'm not seeing any encouraging signs of that.
You know, you mentioned people spewing hate online. There's a lot of that, definitely after Charlie Kirk's death. Some people celebrating this. What do you think, I guess, looking at the overall landscape, because I do think a lot of this hate is fueled on social media. What do you think? Because it's like this hard conversation to have between free speech and, you know, speech that oversteps the line and goes into violence. What do you think needs to happen there? Because that is where a lot of this stuff is being pushed.
Well, you know, there is no desire on the part of anybody to try and regulate online activity. I mean, you know, when it was Twitter, there were guardrails. Well, now that's become X, there aren't. And in many of the other platforms, well, you know, Facebook or Meta has in fact relaxed its standards on this kind of stuff. So there really isn't anything like a consensus as to what restrictions there ought to be. And then, as I said, unfortunately, you have, you know, politicians who have essentially mainstreamed hate speech, have made it acceptable to express these extremist views. And then, as I said, you throw in our gun culture, and it is not the least bit surprising to me that these incidents occur. And, you know, I think it's a combination of things that are going to be necessary to get us out of this. But, you know, and you mentioned before, I mean, we had a wave of assassinations in the 1960s, starting with John Kennedy, going through Martin Luther King Jr. and through Bobby Kennedy, 3 high-profile assassinations in less than a decade, within a period of 5 years, really. So, you know, I'm always hopeful that we will get beyond this, but it's going to take, you know, something of a concerted effort. And what we saw on the floor of the House of Representatives yesterday was not encouraging. You know, in terms of the behavior of representatives on both sides of the aisle.
You know, Charlie Kirk had an amazing ability to really galvanize the youth, no matter what you thought about, you know, those conversations that he would have with the youth. Let me ask you this, because we did talk about people being hateful online, some people disagreeing, some people calling Kirk racist, homophobic. How do you have those conversations and have them in I would say, a respectful political discourse?
Well, I mean, this is something we struggle with on American campuses. We try to teach our students, you know, exactly that. You know, how do you reason from evidence? How do you disagree with a person without treating the person as an undesirable other? And again, you can say, and there's evidence to support it, that he was racist, homophobic, anti-Semitic, and a bunch of other stuff. But nothing in that means that he deserves what happens. That's my objection. Is this isn't the time really to be bringing all that up. The time is to say, full stop, this is simply wrong, and we condemn it. And just leave it at that. And yeah, then we can move on, you know, and say, okay, now let's talk about how we dampen down rhetoric. But there's a great deal of political capital to be gained by this. We just saw it in the last presidential election. That the president has made, you know, has never really restrained himself in terms of how he voices his animosity to those who cross him, who disagree with him, and so on. And there are others as well who do that. But I mean, to me, one of the classic example was, you know, that's like, well, you know, we condemn all this, and then you start talking about these far left conspiracies, which we don't have any evidence even existing. I think it's going to be quite clear this was an individual acting on his own. I would lay even money on that. We'll find out the details of his motive, you know, when they apprehend him, assuming they apprehend him alive, which they will certainly try to do.
Well, very interesting point you bring up there, Professor Makaitis. Not to interrupt you, but the FBI has just released pictures of this person of interest. You see it right there on your screen. This is the person that they say that they are looking for. There is a manhunt underway looking for this person right now. We do know that the FBI was able to recover a high-powered bolt-action rifle in all of this. And again, they are looking for this person. They say they have good footage of him. You can kind of see him clearly right there. What is that symbol on his shirt? It almost looks like there's some type of symbol there on his shirt that resembles possibly the American flag. But yeah, this is just coming down. Go ahead, Professor.
Yeah, well, see, that's the other thing too. Now we are. I was saying this morning in another interview that I've been doing this for going on 40 years, offering this kind of commentary and study. And what I can say consistently is how our profiles of people are constantly overturned by new evidence. What we're now seeing is the rise of these nihilistic lone wolves who don't have a really coherent ideology. They're driven by attention seeking. They're wanting to make a bold kind of statement. And for example, we saw in the case of the Minnesota school shooter that his comments were all over the place. He was calling for violence against Donald Trump, but he was also spewing a lot of far-right, conspiracy theories. So I'm reluctant to draw any conclusions from a T-shirt, but on the other hand, nothing would surprise me now. If they find out this individual was just, as I said, a narcissistic nihilist who was interested in, making a dramatic statement, and for him, maybe any target would have been a suitable one, although this clearly required a great deal of planning. But we'll just have to wait and see. And the other surprise, too, is this wasn't an assault rifle. I mean, I can tell you that most snipers use bolt-action rifles because, you can reseat the second round with, greater precision than by simply pulling the trigger on a semi-automatic. So it seems to have been a pretty well-planned thing, and he really did try hard to escape, obviously not hard enough.
You bring up a good point, because you mentioned how oftentimes when the image of the suspect comes out right away, people kind of jump on a political bandwagon instead of waiting for all of the details to come out. Do you think that in part fuels some of this hate that consistently seems to show up in these different scenarios?
There's no question about that. And I've been covering many of these incidents going all the way back to Oklahoma City, TV commentary on this. And people constantly want someone to blame, which is understandable. They want to know, was it a Muslim? Was it a domestic terrorist? Was it, was it a lone wolf? Who was it? And I always have to say, let's wait and see where the evidence takes us. Let's all push pause and wait until we have more information.
Professor, you spoke there earlier about, the historical context, looking at our nation. Charlie Kirk, again, career built around engaging young voters and really shaping the conversation around politics on campuses. How do you think his death will impact really that student movement? When we talk about conservatives and Democrats, we would see people on both sides of the aisle go to that microphone, have that candid conversation. What do you think that looks like moving forward? And will campuses be open to having these sort of events still? I guess you kind of have to. I mean, it is your First Amendment right to do so. But just interesting to see how this could play out, considering what happened on that campus yesterday.
Well, from what we've seen on campuses and what the data upholds is that students perceive a threat to their freedom of speech and have an anxiety over speaking what their mind that is not borne out by the actual threat environment. This is something that's really, really important. A perception of some kind of threat or some kind of intimidation doesn't mean it's real. So that's there as well. But I think as the example being set by our leadership is, it's hard to blame the young people when, you look at the way the responsible leaders are behaving and not behaving. So I think this is going to be, you're going to see more oil dumped on the flames, and a lot of it will depend on what they learn about the motives of this individual. Yeah. I mean, the shooter who took a shot at President Trump was another individual who fit the nihilist pattern. He had voted Democrat, he voted Republican. They really have not figured out what it is. And the biggest mass shooting in American history, the Las Vegas shooter, to this day, we have no idea what his motive was or what he was about or what he was trying to accomplish. And we probably will never find out.
Is it safe to say, Professor, whatever we find out, it is on the shoulders of our political leaders to be very careful in what they say from this point on? This is like a turning point. No pun intended, but it really is.
Yeah. But yes, it is incumbent upon them. But as long as there's political gain to be had by jumping on the extremist bandwagon, then I'm not the least bit surprised that it's going to continue. I mean, before the evidence was even in, the director of the FBI was out there tweeting, "We've got the guy," and all that. It turns out all they did was question a couple of people as quote unquote persons of interest. That always happens in an investigation. So, you know, I mean, the responsible thing would have been said for the president and the leadership on both sides to condemn it, which they did, but then to stop there and say, I appeal to everyone, you know, to please try to damp down the rhetoric. I can remember having this exact same conversation many years ago when, you know, when Gabby Giffords was shot. You know, there had been this, you know, this thing, you know, time to take aim at our opponents, and a map with target circles on it where all these people were. And the sheriff of Tucson, which is not a hotbed of liberalism, came out and said, would everybody tone this rhetoric down? And if anything, it's gotten significantly worse.
Professor Makaitis, we're running out of time here, but one last question for you really quickly before I let you go. President Donald Trump has said that Charlie Kirk will receive the Medal of Freedom. Is that typical? What are the requirements typically for that highest award?
That's pretty much up to the president to make that particular call, where you just determine the individual has, you know, made a significant contribution culturally, politically, socially to the country. But as we've seen, you know, with this president, he tends to reward people for their loyalty to him. It's rather surprising, deplorable it was, for example, to have the flags at half-mast for somebody who's not a political official or anything like that. But, you know, he's again, see, he's making to some degree political capital out of this.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll be talking to you again. Professor Makaitis, it's always a pleasure. You break it down, you explain it all so well. We appreciate you for joining us on the show.
Okay, have a nice day.
You have a nice day as well. Again, Charlie Kirk, a father, a husband, right here from our very own area, lost his life, you know, believing in what he believed in. And so it has brought up a pivotal moment in our country, having the conversation about, you know, being able to have your beliefs and being able to have free speech. And so this is a conversation that I'm sure won't stop here. We'll be right back right after this break. To Chicago Now. We are speaking with John Hansen from Block Club Chicago. John, it's always a pleasure to have you here with us. Good morning.
Yeah, happy Thursday. Great to be here.
Happy Thursday. Are you looking forward to Friday like I am?
Oh my gosh, every week, right? That Thursday, once you get home from work on Wednesday night, I feel like you've turned the corner, right?
Yeah.
And the rest is uphill, downhill, whichever way is easier.
Whichever way. We need to bring back the 4-day work week.
Yeah, let's do that.
They're like, everybody in studio is like, yeah, right away. That would be great.
You know what would happen, though? It would happen for everybody else, but not people in our business.
But not us.
We'd still have to cover it.
All right, well, we got to talk about some of the stories that you guys have been covering. You're always hard at work. First up, as North Park homeless encampment was clear, residents say they have nowhere to go. What does that mean? What are residents seeing? What is happening there on the ground?
A lot of parks on the north side have seen, for many, many years, but especially in the last couple of years, a lot of unhoused people living in the park. Some of these have been Chicago residents that have been here for a long time that have fallen under the cycle of not being able to find somewhere to live more permanently. But a lot more people since the surge in migrants came to the Chicago area over the last couple of years. And it's an interesting discussion, right? I mean, we want people to be able to find safe housing. If they can't find that, a tent certainly makes some sense. We'd all want them to have more affordable housing options, but they don't exist in this city. So there's a back and forth between neighbors and people living in the park. Neighbors want to use the parks that are accessible in their neighborhoods to play baseball, to walk their kids, all the things that we love to do in parks, and to be able to do so in peace. For a lot of this, it happens that way, right? Tents pop up, but everyone kind of keeps to their own area. Unfortunately, a lot of these parks have grown overcrowded with a lot of people, into the fact that they are now building more permanent structures, sometimes 2-floor wooded siding structures that they live in. Fires have broken out some places that people want to play baseball. There's been some confrontations. So it becomes this aspect where the city now has to go into some of these parks and say, look, we're okay with some tents, but we're not okay with overcrowded areas, unsafe areas for you and for others. So over the last 6 months, Molly DeVore has been covering on the north side for Block Club Chicago as the city has kind of systematically gone through these encampments and shut them down and told people they have to go.
Yeah. What do you think I guess I don't even want to say the solution is, because it's so multi-layered, which is, I think, part of the problem.
It is, right. And like when the city goes in and they try to give a lot of advance notice when they're going to do this camp that we're talking about, Legion's Park on the north side, right along the banks of the Chicago River, there was a fire in the camp on July 28th. And that's when officials went in and said, hey, we're going to usually give you some notice. This was September 10th when they shut it down, or September the 9th. So over a month of notice, a couple hours in the morning, they said, today is the day. We're going to come in, gather your belongings. And when the city goes in, they do bring housing advocates that say, look, we do have rooms in the shelters. Do you want to come to the shelter? And try and advocate for that. And I think a lot of us say, of course, they would go right into a shelter. But the reality is, on the boots of the ground, when people talk to the unhoused community, a lot of people feel less safe in shelters. Items are stolen, other reports of bed bugs. There is not that independent sense that you get that some people find in a tent in a park instead. So it's not as easy as, here, come to the shelter. A lot of folks decide they don't want to, and you can't force them to. They can try and get on the affordable housing list for CHA, but that wait list is sometimes many, many years long. So there isn't an obvious solution to this. And some neighbors, by the way, are totally sympathetic. They get they don't want to see unhoused people treated unfairly or treated in an inhumane way. But when it becomes an issue where they're conflicting with their use of the park too, this becomes an issue that the city has to step in on, and it's a delicate one.
Yeah, I covered a story, I want to say it was in Humboldt Park, I believe, and it was a homeless encampment that they decided to dissolve. And one of the issues that a lot of the people that would have been placed in these shelters had was all of this stuff that they've acquired cannot go. And so that was the debate, is like, well, do I go and leave all of this stuff that I've acquired and then I go kind of with nothing and kind of start over? And so you're right, there are a lot of issues when it comes to moving into those shelters that you will encounter if you are an unhoused person. So like I said, it's a multi-layered conversation. I do want to talk to you about something else that's happening in our community, and this is Operation Midway Blitz. It continues across Chicago. ICE sightings have surged. What do we know is going on the ground in Chicago right now?
We know a lot of anecdotal evidence, right? And that's what's happening is the most part. And part of this is because the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, they would say to their own benefit, us journalists and maybe some of the public would say, well, hold on, we need more information. They don't really report the number of arrests. We don't know the names of the people that they detain for a couple hours and then let go. We don't know the numbers of that. In fact, Block Club Chicago earlier this year sued the Department of Homeland Security and ICE to at least just try and get some basic information so we can answer some of those questions. So what we're left with is anecdotal stories, right? A lot of times, as you know, it's misinformation that flies around, old videos that resurface and people say it's happening right now, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't have a lot of information about how many arrests there's been, maybe not as many as some people had initially thought, but there has been an uptick, according to Francia Garcia Hernandez, who covers this really well in the Pilsen, the Little Village neighborhood, and has from the beginning for Block Club, that there has been a lot of more vehicles that are labeled ICE. They've seen more ICE agents, but as of arrests, we don't know. But the chilling effect on certain communities is palatable. Francia reported on so many businesses that are usually thriving and busy in Pilsen, Little Village, and some of the surrounding communities empty as people fear going to a business, going to a doctor for fear of what you're seeing here in the video. And it's a complex issue. It's similar to the last issue we talked about, many layers to this, but suffice to say, we don't get a lot of information from the Department of Homeland Security to really wrap our heads around what is happening in the neighborhoods.
You were talking about the fear from people in the neighborhoods. Business isn't as usual. People aren't going to their businesses maybe anymore, maybe feel a little afraid to come out of their homes. There's a big parade that is supposed to happen kicking off tomorrow, going through the weekend. Have you heard anything about what that turnout will be like?
I asked Francia that exact question because I'm wondering the exact same thing. And right, because you wonder if, and some events have been canceled, but the ones in the neighborhoods haven't, as you mentioned. Some people wonder if this will have a chilling effect and people won't show up. We're talking about the Mexican Independence Day celebrations. Other people wonder if there's an almost we're not going to be told not to celebrate, and you'll actually see more people turn out. Of course, it's impossible to know, but the people that Francia has talked about have mostly said they're still going to celebrate. And a lot of local leaders in those communities have said, we need to celebrate at this time who we are and along those lines. I asked Francia, too, because the Trump administration has said repeatedly, and Tom Homan has said, the border czar, has said many times, and the head of ICE, that they're just going after criminals, but we don't really have an exact definition of what that means, right? I think a lot of people are sympathetic to ICE going after people that are domestic abusers who have been accused or convicted of those crimes, or some serious drug offenses, of course. But what exactly does being a criminal mean? Does it mean a traffic offense? They haven't quite answered exactly what their delineation on what a crime that would result in you being arrested or detained is. Does it mean simply being in the country illegally, even if a judge a few years ago said that you're allowed to stay while the process plays out? So again, in a vacuum of true information, data, and understanding from our government officials, vacuums are filled by something, and a lot of times it's speculation, fear, and unfounded fear.
Well, I think it leads to speculation when you don't have those facts, right? When you don't have definite, and let's backtrack a little bit, because ICE did send out some information about some arrest, but the totality of arrest is really what we're talking about, and it's a big question mark. We don't know who was arrested, we don't know why they were arrested, and in fact, we don't know if they've even received due process, because we've heard that argument as well. I want to move on and talk about something a little lighter, and I get behind this completely. This is all about female empowerment, and this is Chicago's Olivia Curry. She hopes to be the female middleweight boxing champion of the world. Tell me her story.
Yeah, she's up in the Logan Square neighborhood is where her gym is at. And there's been a real growth in women's boxing. I don't know if you've noticed it, but a lot of people have. And in fact, it's becoming a profitable business. And some promoters think that it could be as big as men's boxing within the next couple of decades. But Olivia Curry has been training for years and years at a gym on the northwest side in the Logan Square neighborhood, Unanimous Boxing Gym. And I know you're going to be chatting with her, so I don't want to tell too much of her story because she's going to be talking about it on your show, I think, in the next week. She's 160 pounds. She's taller than a lot of the other female boxers at 5'9", and right now there is no middleweight champion of the world. It's a vacant spot in the boxing world, and next week in Detroit she hopes to become just that. So her coach and promoter essentially has been calling the promoters of these big events every single day at the same time, trying to get this match set up and these matches set up. She's got a 7-2 record, and I don't know much about boxing, but I know that's a good one. A lot of total knockouts. Again, I don't quite know what that means, but that sounds really good. And And as a Chicagoan, I know we're all cheering for her next week and cheering for the rise in women's boxing. I think this is a cool overall story about a trend that's happening here in Chicago and across the country.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to her. She's actually going to be on Chicago Now on Tuesday. I'm sure you've heard of Clarissa Shields. And the reason why you would have heard of her is because she's very outspoken. But I think that her outspokenness has really brought the limelight on women's boxing. She's out of Flint. I remember her. I used to live there when she was like 16. But I think, you know, her being so outspoken, sometimes controversial, has made people look at women's boxing a little bit closer. What do you make of that?
Well, right. I mean, you say a couple things that get some headlines, and that gets people conversation started about women's boxing as a whole. No press is bad press, right, in many ways, to a certain extent. And, you know, I don't think Olivia is quite as maybe controversial isn't the right word, but outspoken, but certainly proud of what she's done. They even said that she took a trip to Disney World with her family, and her trainer flew down there to train in the mornings while before they went out to the parks and everything like that,
that's
which
some
I just
dedication.
found awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. Well, John Hansen, you have a great weekend. It's always great to catch up with you.
I'm going to bring more fun stories next week. I promise.
Let's bring something a little lighter. You know, it's so much heavy news. We need something lighter, don't we?
Girl, we need the lightness, don't we?
Yes, and we need you in studio because you are the light. You bring the light.
You don't like my little home setup? I got a little
I do, but here's what's crazy. We have never met in person. We follow each other on social media, right? We've had exchange, but we've never met in person. So I would like to see you in studio with us.
How about a bar instead? Why are we doing it in studio?
Okay, I'll meet you at a bar. Consider it done. I'll take you up on that offer. John Hansen, it was a pleasure. Have a great weekend. Thank you for being with us.
You too. Thanks so much.
All right, so we're going to talk about something a little lighter and a little spooky. We're talking ghosts with the professor coming up next. Stay with us.
This right.
Maybe you heard something creaking in your basement. Maybe you thought you saw somebody walk past your room. Was it real, right? Was there really a ghost there? You know, for centuries, people all across the world have had ghostly encounters and such. And joining us now to talk more about this is Dr. and Professor Christine Simmons Moore, a professor of psychology specializing in parapsychological research. Let's talk about this. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So let's talk about this. Are ghostly encounters real, or is this just a figment of people's imagination?
Well, first of all, I'd say both. They're not mutually exclusive. I mean, they're very real to the person themselves. And sometimes imagination can act in very strange ways. So sometimes we can have things that are actually coming from our imagination that seem to kind of project out into space. And that's particularly likely under certain circumstances. For example, if we're sleepy, if we're in the half-light, if we have lost a loved one, we might be kind of thinking about them a lot, and then we're also sleep deprived. So lots of things like that. So it's kind of both real and not real.
Yeah, it seems though in our culture, at least now, we hear more about these ghostly encounters, especially when it comes to video. Is that because more people are pulling out their phones, or are these situations happening more often?
Well, I think we've always had ghost experiences. It's part and parcel of being human. But like you say, we do have cameras to hand, and so people are much more able to try to record these anomalous events. And so I think it's a bit of both. And again, like, camera footage does not equal a ghost. It equals an anomaly that we have to then try to explain. But yeah, so again, I think this is part and parcel of being human, and we see it in every single culture and across history.
In your research, because I'm sure you've had to research to get to the point where you are, have you had anybody that you've maybe studied, or any situation that you've studied that involved a ghostly encounter?
Well, actually, we've done some research here at University of West Georgia where we were actually trying to create a ghost, because people's stories are flawed. Memory is not like a camera. And so what we tried to do was have people in a chamber where they were trying to interact with a deceased loved one. And what we did was we looked at personality, we looked at the environment, we looked at geomagnetism, we looked at the body, and we were looking to see all the things that correlate with when people have an encounter. And so we also looked at random number generator, and that has been found to be associated with consciousness and ghosts in previous studies. So yeah, we were trying to see whether we could create that under lab situations, because stories are flawed. And people did have interesting experiences in the lab. And they do seem to correlate with personality, but also with the environment. And so there's something that seems to be an interaction between what people are wanting to experience, what's going on that we can't see, like geomagnetism, and certain personality types. So certain people are much more likely to have strange interactions between feeling something's in the room, and these kind of fluctuations in randomness that we shouldn't see. So we try to sort of systematically study it to make more sense, because a lot of the research has focused on, okay, I had this encounter, and you can't study it post hoc. You have to try and, as best you can, see what's happening when the experience is going on. And so the best way to do that is to create it, if that makes sense.
Yes, it makes sense. So when you were studying this person in this chamber, I'm assuming there were cameras watching the entire time to see if this deceased loved one would come back. Did anyone have that experience? Mm-hmm.
They did. And so we don't have footage of actual ghosts appearing on our camera, but we were looking for anomalies on the camera footage. And there were more sort of blobs when there was somebody sitting in the room compared to where there weren't. And there were more blobs that seemed to kind of relate to when there was non-randomness in the stream of random numbers that's supposed to be random. So we're sort of piecing it together, but there was not any pictures of ghostly figures on the camera, but there were weird things. I can also add that people who had encounters with their deceased loved ones were profoundly affected by it. So it's very, very meaningful for people to have these encounters. So, again, in contrast to the idea that ghosts are scary, these kind of encounters were very reassuring and allowed people an opportunity to say goodbye to their deceased loved ones. So, yeah, it's really interesting and sort of challenging for the idea that ghosts are scary.
Let me ask you this, because different people have different experiences when they grow up. Maybe religiously speaking, they grow up and in their family, they talk about ghosts. They talk about, their deceased loved ones coming back to life, or they had an encounter with a deceased loved one. Religious beliefs and kind of cultural differences. Did you find, or do you have research that proves that based on that alone, some people do have more ghostly encounters than others?
They absolutely do, yeah. So it's a really complex recipe. So we've got like cultural beliefs and personal beliefs that are interacting with experiences that people might have. And so if you grow up in a culture where it's okay to have a ghost encounter, or that the ancestors are watching over you, it's much more acceptable. And if something's more acceptable, we're more likely to report it, and we're more likely then to have those experiences overall. So one comparison is between, for example, Brazil and the US. So people in Brazil are much more likely to have those kind of ancestral beliefs, and so more likely to have ghost experiences overall. Whereas in the US, sometimes it's portrayed as being associated with poor mental health, or you see something that isn't there, and so people don't talk about it as much. But even within the US, like you say, like people who grow up in a household where it's okay, like great, you know, your grandma's looking over you, you're much more likely to have that experience and accept it, and then perhaps have those experiences too.
It seems like in our culture right now, if you didn't get it on video, it didn't happen, right? Because I think for a lot of people, seeing is believing. In your research, in terms of the paranormal activity, are ghosts real? Has there been any video evidence or any situation that proves that ghosts do exist?
Well, it's very complicated because just an image on a camera could be many things, and human beings are very good at turning shadows into human faces and human shapes. That's what we do. You know, you might play that game with your child. Look at the cloud. What do you see in the cloud? Or look in the tea leaves. So we're really good at that. And so, you know, sometimes we get photos sent to us, or I get videos sent to me, and people say, "Oh, look, I've caught a ghost on my camera," and I say, "Well, okay, we can't tell whether this is a ghost by just looking at that picture. What you have to do is, like I said before, systematic investigation, and you sort of layer the evidence." And so, for example, if there is an anomaly on a camera that is in the same location where something has been seen compared to other locations, and where maybe lots of people have seen the same thing rather than different things, and even where something has been experienced that relates to events that actually did happen there, that is more interesting. So what we have to do is layer the evidence to sort of say whether something anomalous has happened. And then even then, as a psychologist and researcher, you have to be skeptical and but open-minded at the same time, and say, well, okay, something's gone on, and this is more likely to be anomalous than just a blob on a camera in itself. But you don't know whether it's necessarily a ghost per se, because also there's lots of different ways to understand ghosts and different types of ghosts too, if that makes sense. So it's complicated.
Yeah, it is complicated, but very interesting at the very same time. Professor Christine Simmons-Moore, thank you so much for shedding light on this issue. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for inviting me. Have a good day.
You too. Okay, coming up, we are talking to Frank the Tank, who has lost over 220 pounds just by walking. You may know that name because he's part of Barstool. We'll have his story, and we'll talk to him right after this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Now. From the sidewalks of New Jersey to the heart of Hollywood, Barstool's Frank the Tank has really inspired millions. Frank the Tank Fleming, his journey is really incredible after shedding more than 220 pounds. And Frank the Tank is joining us right now. Thank you so much for being with us today. I think you're muted. You may want to check. You may be muted, Frank. It happens on live TV all the time. Are you there with us?
Yes, I am.
There you are.
Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you. I think your journey is absolutely incredible. And now you've teamed up with Lionsgate to celebrate the release of The Long Walk. It's really a one-of-a-kind stunt that happened down Sunset Boulevard. Tell us all about it.
I mean, I still can't believe it. Of course, the movie's coming out this week, and I met up with about 50 fans. We went to a nice little meet and greet. Watched a little bit of the football game, and then we got marched out by these soldiers and went down Hollywood Boulevard into a screening room to watch the movie. You know, that's kind of like a theme of the movie, is you got these soldiers like marching everyone, but they have to stay above 3 miles per hour.
I love this. You said you can't believe it. What about your story can't you believe?
I mean, everything. 10 years ago, I was working at a courthouse. I was weighing well over 500 pounds. I mean, good God. I mean, and I had a viral video that Barstool discovered, gave me a chance, and I'm trying to make the most of it. And Barstool has been, I mean, everything they've done for me.
You know, Frank, sometimes they say, you know, all it takes is one shot. That's all it takes is one shot. Let me ask you this. What made you decide to change your life by walking? And then so many other people were inspired and got on board.
Well, I had to. I mean, you know, how my diabetes was, A1C was over 11.
Wow.
I was over 500 pounds. I couldn't walk like 100 feet without getting winded. I mean, it was I'm going to be 50 in November, so it was I had to get going, otherwise I don't know how much time I would have left, you know. I mean, I had to make a change somewhere. I had a bout with MRSA in 2016, and that I lost a lot of weight on that, but I wasn't in great shape after that, and eventually when Barstool hired me, I had people start trying to encourage me more than I've ever been encouraged to try to lose weight. Of course, Jenks and Mikey Betts, my team, have helped come up with the idea for the walks, and it's just growing every day.
And Frank, let me ask you, because people watching may be in that same battle. You know, losing weight is a really hard battle for a lot of people. Some people don't want to try, you know, Ozempic and Wegovy. They want to do it the natural way. Let me ask you, was it just the walking, or did you change your diet at the same time?
I've modified my diet a little bit. I used to eat like 5 potato chip bags a week. I used to have the snack cakes like daily, like 2 or 3, 4 of them. I used to eat a whole bunch of chocolate. The snacking, the fried food, a lot of fast food. And I've greatly reduced how much fast food I consume. I've reduced a lot of the potato chips I eat. I don't have that much candy anymore, and I use like banana bread instead of snack cakes.
Yeah, something healthier.
And I've reduced that. And then when it comes to like foods I eat, I moderate a little bit. I used to eat like I could eat like 2 large fries of McDonald's, and maybe I would do fast food 3, 4 times a week. Now I do it maybe 2 or 3 times a month.
How does it feel physically to live? Because I would imagine when you were much heavier that you couldn't really move around. You couldn't really live. You couldn't really, you know, enjoy your life. You were merely existing. How does it feel to be able to really live now, Frank?
It's incredible that I have all this energy. I mean, I would have to take naps every day. I didn't have the energy. It was a miracle I was able to get to baseball games here and there and hockey games here and there. I didn't have energy to do anything else. I didn't have energy to do to walk. Now I'm walking 20,000 steps a day, and it's incredible. I put in I put on an Audible book, and I'm listening all the time. I'm walking 2-3 hours a day, and I've never had more energy. I've never felt better.
Since you've kind of checked this off of your list, is there anything else in terms of your health that you're going to do next, or that you want to try next, or work on next?
Probably eventually get like skin tightening or something like that. But I just got to keep losing weight and getting down further and further.
Any idea how much?
I think the way I'm doing it is probably best, because you get these people who lose a lot of weight suddenly.
Yeah.
Then they'll yo-yo up and get discouraged. I've gone through that in the past. But if you do it slow and steady, I think you have a better chance of maintaining a lower weight.
Yeah, very good advice there. Let's talk about your film. Those that are watching right now, they haven't seen it yet. What will we see in this film? I know it's probably a lot of inspiration, but what else can people expect?
Well, I think there's some good acting performances, especially from David Johnson and Cooper Hoffman. They definitely are the standouts. Mark Hamill takes on a very good villainous role, I would say. It's a violent movie, but I think it's a good character study.
When you say violent, what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's basically the movie's walk or die, and you have soldiers walking everyone, and anyone that falls behind gets killed.
Okay, got it. When is your movie out there for everybody to see? When does it hit the theaters?
I believe it's premiering this weekend for everyone else. It'll be in theaters this weekend. It's an R-rated film, so there's definitely discretion involved. But it's a good movie, I would say. It's well acted and good Stephen King story.
How are you feeling, and really what's next in your journey? Are you thinking about writing a book? I mean, you went from working in a courthouse to where you are now. You lost all this weight. You want to lose a little bit more. What's kind of next on your journey, or anything that you want to accomplish?
I'm sure that there'll probably be a book out one day down the road, but I want to just continue to experience everything. I want to go to all 30 MLB ballparks. I want to see all 50 states. I want to meet more fans, go walk from here to there, do more great walks, and do a walk in all 50 states, see all the natural monuments, all the great sights of the country, walk by the Mount Rushmore, walk in Hawaii, walk in Alaska. I mean, I want to go everywhere.
Let me ask you this. You obviously had to have some wherewithal within yourself to get this going. You said you had some people to motivate you along the way. Maybe there's someone watching right now, they don't have that motivation, Frank. They don't have anybody to push them and tell them to get up from where they are and really just start maybe just walking in the house. What would you tell someone that is where you were? What advice would you give them?
First off, I'd say just get up and walk. If I could do it, anyone could do it. I mean, I was that guy who couldn't do it 10 years ago. I was that guy who sat around the house and was not motivated. That was me. And start slow. Don't think you can get to 20,000, you know? Maybe start with a 15-minute walk and just do it every day. And just do it every day. You can't skip it. Walk around the house for 15 minutes if it's cold. Walk around the house if you can't do anything. Just 15 minutes a day. And then you know what? Do that every day for 2 months, and then you'll be ready for 30 days, 30 minutes.
Yeah, very good advice.
An hour. And as you get more and more stamina, more and more strength, you begin to lose more and more weight, you feel better.
Yeah, very good advice there, Frank. Real quick, we're about to wrap it up here because we're about to end the show. Why do it, the natural way? Some people, they go get surgery, they load up on some of these medications. What made you do it the natural way? You got 30 seconds to answer this question.
It's the only way to do it. It's the only way to do it. Now, I am a diabetic, so yes, I do have the injections, but that's because I'm a diabetic. But you have to do it the natural way. There's no shortcuts. You got to get up and get moving, and that's the only way to lose weight.
All right, Frank the Tank, it has been a pleasure. Congratulations to all you have accomplished. And I know you're going to knock some other things off of that bucket list of yours. It's been a pleasure. Congratulations. And thank you for motivating our audience as well. You've even motivated me. We need to get moving.
Well, thanks a lot. I'm glad that you had me on.
All right, absolutely. Frank the Tank, it was a pleasure. Hey, and thank everybody else who's been watching us here on Chicago Now. Don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow for Friday as we move into the weekend. We'll see you then. Have a great rest of your day.
This is probably
Live from Chicago, this is Fox 32 News at Noon.
Now at noon, new leads in the search for Charlie Kirk's killer. We're going to have the latest from the FBI in a live report. Also, thieves target the Louis Vuitton store on the Magnificent Mile. But this smash and grab ends in a deadly crash. Also, commemorating 9/11 in our area, our Johnny Lum will show us how Chicago firefighters are honoring those who lost their lives in that tragic day. And also a return of summer-like temperatures. We are at the start of a major warm-up. Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Brian Jackson. We have some breaking news right now. FBI now releasing images of the person of interest in the shooting that killed Charlie Kirk. Authorities say that the shooter is still on the run, but a high-powered rifle has been found in some nearby woods.